everybody, it's Claire here from Sewn by Claire, and today I've got a long awaited video that I hope you're all going to enjoy. It's slightly different from my normal video because there's possibly no sewing in it at all, which is going to perhaps switch some of you off, but hopefully the others that know me know that it'll be worth the wait. Hopefully you'll think that anyway. We've been working on the advent calendar, the fabric panel advent calendar, which we've got here. And we've been working on the quilting, excuse my hand brace, I'll explain in a minute. And we've been working on the quilting on this, and we've been attaching the pockets. And the video that you've all been waiting for is the video, well, apart from the finishing one, which I've not got around to doing yet because I'm still waiting for my fabric, is the little sugar-free treats that I was suggesting we could put inside these pockets, especially if it's for younger children. So hopefully you're going to enjoy this video. Now, I do apologise that I haven't done it sooner. If you did spot my hand brace, then yes, I've given myself tendinitis, which is rather unpleasant, and it's fine so long as my hand's in my brace, but if I twist my hand too much, then it hurts. So I've been doing a bit too much sewing. But don't worry, because even if I have to learn how to sew left-handed, I can guarantee you I will be doing it, because sewing is my absolute passion, as anybody who's followed me for a while now will know, and I like all sorts of sewing and crafting, dressmaking and toy making and embroidery and cross stitch and mending and repairs. So you know, you're in a good environment with me, and I will come round to doing some more videos, but have been resting it for a couple of weeks, and I've forgotten to take my brace off before I started my video as well, which is why you got the sneak peek of it. So apologies for anybody who has been waiting for this video. We're going to get on this is sort of like a bonus video that's kind of jumping on ahead, because if you've chosen that you just want to gift the fabric panel as a finished advent calendar, the finishing video will be coming very soon. As I say, I'm just waiting for my fabric to arrive. My friends very kindly brought it over from the UK for me, but then that meant that I needed to wait until she was here. So we're jumping ahead, and we're making what I would call the bonus video, if you like, which is the treats that we're going to put inside the advent calendar. Now, a special shout out to one of my very lovely subscribers called Marion, who has been waiting very patiently for this video. Marion, I hope it lives up to expectations. There's no guarantee you're going to like what I've done, but hopefully you will, and hopefully it'll be worthwhile. So without much ado, I'm going to now start and show you what I have actually made. So here we are, folks. These are the treats that I will be putting inside the advent calendar. Oh, and they're whiting out in the light. So these are little ornaments that I have made that go inside each of the pockets, and they're actually double-sided. So they've actually got words on the back of each of them in order to well, I'll explain why in a minute, but yeah, so this is what we've got. Okay, so these are the little advent ornaments, and the hope is that Clementine, who I'm making this advent calendar for, will either have a wreath like this that I can gift to her, or more hopefully I'm hoping that she'll have a little Christmas tree of her own that she'll be able to put these on day by day. Now let me just take one or two off to show you a bit closer, and hopefully, that's the pink one, isn't it? Let's try this one. So these are actually made out of wood, and then I've decoupaged the picture on the front and embellished it with some paint. I've hand stamped the words on the back here, and a few more of the dots, and then I don't know if you can see, but they've got a little gold edge on them as well, which I've brought slightly round to the front as well, just to give that kind of I don't know, I suppose antique-y look, I suppose, but I just really like them. So again, it's just difficult to know whether these are going to be your taste or not. They may not be. Then they don't match perfectly with the colours of the quilt, and I understand that, but I wanted these to have a little bit more longevity to them as well. I want the whole advent calendar to be one that Clementine can use hopefully for many years, and just be an absolute joy to her to bring out and to use. So the idea is that these will slot inside. Oh, I'll get my thingy. So I've made these so that they will slot inside, and took the little string down, they will slot inside the little pockets like this when that's hung up and finished. And then on the relevant day she'll be able to pull out her little treat, which is this little ornament, and then she'll be able to take that to her Christmas tree or to her wreath and hang that onto her tree herself. As she gets older and the pictures aren't really the thing for her to excite her, I mean, the reason for the pictures was that when we were younger, we didn't have chocolate advent calendars, we had pictures, and it was just a flat advent calendar, and when you opened up a door you got a picture. And we were so excited to see what the picture was. There didn't need to be any chocolate, there didn't need to be anything expensive in there. It was just the delight of seeing the picture. So whether I was just relatively easy to please, I don't know. But that's where the picture came from on the little ornaments. I wanted some way to try and recreate that. The reason why I've put these words on the back is because as she gets older, then I'm hopeful that the words will start and take over, especially as she starts to learn to read. Then she'll be able to read the words herself, and she'll be able to have a conversation with her mum and dad about the meaning of the words. But also, as she gets bigger, I'm hopeful that she'll just want to use it for years and years and years. So as I say, these little advent, these will just slit inside the little pockets like this. The one inside here, you'll not be able to see them before, and they can be set up before the start of the advent. And then each day, on the relevant day, she just picks out the ornament and pops it onto her Christmas tree. The other thing is that with these ornaments as well, this can still roll up and store, so each year they go back in again. I did think about putting numbers on the back of the advent door calendars, little advent ornaments, and indeed you could do that. I just wanted, for me, the excitement of Clementine to be able to not know which picture was going to come out on which day. And if she's particularly clever, as some children are, then sometimes they already know, so then the excitement is spoilt a little bit. So by having words on the back rather than a number, then I thought that would take that away, and they can just go back in any order in any of the pockets and be packed away. And then the following Advent, Christmas time, or the countdown, the Advent calendar can be rolled out ready for the 1st of December, and then these can actually then be popped down and to be able to be used. So that's it, folks. It's very nerve-wracking actually when because I've designed these myself, so I haven't seen this idea on anybody else's, and obviously there's iterations of ornaments on other YouTube channels, but for me, I've actually had this idea in my head, and then I've designed it, and then I've put it together. And I was really excited at first when I was talking to you about it, which is probably where Marion got some of her excitement from, because hopefully I was inspiring you all to have a look and have a go. But then I don't know how you are within your creative process, but there tends to be a bit of a sync where I think, okay, I know what I want to do. How do I do it? Can I find the materials that I need? Do I have the skills to do it? Am I going to like it when it's done? And so there was a couple of weeks while I was just gathering everything together and sorting everything out in order to pull things, all those materials and all those elements together. And then there was a very nerve-wracking couple of hours whilst I had a go at doing the very first one, and to see how I liked it, and I had to tweak it a couple of times just to make sure that I did like it. So, as I say, sorry for this really long intro, but if you've been following me, you know how important this project is to me and to get right. And I want it to be right for you guys as well. I want you to look at it and think, yeah, I can have a go at doing that, or understand, even if you don't like what I've done, perhaps you can look at the process that I've taken in choosing what I've done and how I've done it, and then you can adapt something like that. And yes, you can adapt something like that for the recipient of your gift. Yes, absolutely, you can go out, you can buy chocolates and just put a chocolate inside each one, like a celebrations type individually wrapped chocolate. You can go out and you could buy a little bit of something each year and change it each year. It's up to you, but for me, I wanted something that was ready-made, in that it was there for whenever my daughter and her husband want to put this out for Clementine, they could just pick it up and it was ready to go at any stage. So there's no extra buying or thinking involved. And I wanted the delight of it of having that repetition each year, and then hopefully that building. So that's what I chose to do with mine. And yes, as always, it's more work. Yes, it's a fairly lengthy process, but you know, I've really enjoyed putting these together, apart from the dip where I wasn't quite sure if it was going to work or not. But once I'd actually got through to got that first one made, then I was absolutely thrilled. The other thing is it allows you to use some of your treasures that you've had saving around, so we'll go into a bit more of that when I start talking about it. I'm going to timestamp when we actually start with the tutorial, because those of you who aren't interested in all of my waffle, then you can jump straight ahead. But hopefully the background to it all will hopefully make sense and just add to the whole occasion of what we've done and what I've done and why. And if you want to have a go, then you can do. As always, comments and questions in the comment section below, and I always read all of the comments, and I always answer as well. So you know, hopefully you'll enjoy what I've been doing, and I have put a little video up here just so that you can have a look in greater detail just while I was talking about it. So the anatomy of the actual ornaments themselves, they actually all start as a pre-cut, oops, sorry, I should have had all this ready, shouldn't I? A pre-cut wooden block like this. And I think these are 2 inches by 2 inches. Yeah, so these are 2 inches by 2 inches. If I pop my measure by the side, you'll be able to see this. So that's 2 inches. Spin it around by 2 inches. Okay, and these are laser cut. These are called laser cut blanks. So they've got a scorched edge where the laser has gone through and scorched the edge of the shape, but they're all exactly the same. And I bought a set of 30 of these, and they came packaged in this little cardboard box. Okay, and they were by the Cotswold Laser Company. Okay, and all of their details are here if you want to just stop the video. Hopefully that's in focus. If you want to stop the video and have a look at that, and you've got that. I got them off Etsy. You can get all sorts of shapes. You can get circles, you can get stars, you can get love hearts, you can choose whatever you want. But because these pockets are square, that's why I've gone for square. And if you remember, because I was ordering all of this when I was in Spain before I travelled to the UK, and I needed them all to be there to pick up, I actually measured the pockets, got the assistant at the shop where I bought the panel from to measure the finished pocket for me so that I knew that they would fit, and they are perfect. So I'm really thrilled with that. So that's what I started off with. The next stage that I did was I then hold on one second. Okay, so the next thing that I did then was I picked up something called rice paper. So I picked up, I'll put a picture up here for you. I picked up a sheet of these little drawings, and you can get all sorts of little drawings, and they've got some big ones and some smaller ones. So there's some big ones here that I've taken out that were too big for me to be able to use, sorry for the glare, and I stuck to the smaller ones. Now I did have to just use one of these that was bigger, but I managed to fudge it together. I think it was this one here. So this one was actually a long rectangle one, and can you see there's the stem there? I've actually torn the paper in between here and then joined the bottom of it up, so it just made it shorter. So I got some, it's basically decoupage paper because they've been decoupaged on. So I did that. I also had some chalk paints, and I chose 3 colours. So I had this one here, which is Rust-Oleum Chalky Finish, and this colour is Rosa Mosqueta. And then I had this colour here, which is this green, which is Verde Provence. So that's that one. And then I had one other colour, because I already had this colour that I'd used for another chalk painting project, which is an Annie Sloan paint colour, and it is Country Grey. Now, you can use acrylic paint as well. I particularly wanted this vintage chalky kind of look to my ornaments, and so those are the materials that I used. So I chalk painted the blocks first, and I'm going to show you how I do all of this. But basically, if you want the quick and sort of down and out version, I chalk painted with 2 coats the original squares, I drilled a hole in as well, so I've just got a wood drill bit of my husband's drill, and just drilled a hole through in the centre, so I made sure it was centre and down a little bit. And then 2 coats of chalk paint on all sides and all the edges. The next thing that I did then was tear out my pictures, and I'm going to show you how I do that, and then attach it onto the painted surface once it would dry with PVC glue. PVC glue? What's the glue called? Oh. PVA glue. Oh dear, honestly. PVA glue. Now you'll notice that these pictures, when they're like this, have got are still just, and they've got this dark edge around them. So I've had to just do what's called a feathered edge on there, and you just tear it, and I'll show you how I do that. And that then gives you this kind of edge on the edge of the drawing. Okay, so I did that. I stuck those on with PVA glue, and then I hand stamped the back of it. I've got a stamping set, and I stamped on the back of them. I picked out my words first, and I wrote them down, because you'll be surprised how much you double guess yourself when you're actually stamping these out, and as to how you actually spell the words. And when you look at something afterwards, I don't know if it's me slightly dyslexic or something, but you look at it and you think, oh my goodness, is that actually the right spelling? So it sent me scurrying off, but yes, they are right, but it was worth writing them down first and checking them before I started doing them all. I then redid, I don't know if you can see on here, there's got polka dots on there, but they faded when they were actually decoupaged on. So I then went over some of the dots and added a few more around the outside just to add to that. And then I also added polka dots around the back of the picture. I like the polka dots particularly because I thought it could look like snow, because it's winter, obviously, for Christmas. But also in Spain, you see a lot of polka dots as well, whether it's on the flamenco dresses or the occasion dresses, or whether it's on the plant pots that you see on the walls as you're walking around the towns and cities. So I am a fan of polka dots anyway, but that's why we put the polka dots on. I then went round the edge with some gold waxing, gold wax. And this is something again from Annie Sloan that I bought, Gilding wax. Okay, I'd already got that from the cabinet. If anybody's seen on my Instagram, I'd chalk painted a china cabinet, and so I'd use this as a little accent. So I've got lots left, so we only use a bit. So I smeared that on the side and then brought it round to the front slightly and round to the back. Let that all dry, and then 2 coats of a matte varnish, an acrylic waterproof water-based matte varnish. Then it was off to my bag of ribbons that I have. I don't know if you're the same as me, but I have a big bag of ribbons that I save. So if I get any chocolates, or I get a gift, or I get you know, sometimes when you buy new clothes you can have a tag on the dress with a ribbon on it, then anything like that I save and pop into a freezer bag like this, and you'll be surprised how often that's come into real handy for me, just to be able to save those and to use those. So I went through all of these and got that together. I also went through a button box, so I've got some big button boxes like these. You can sort into colours and what have you. So I sorted out some buttons and some jewels. I've got some where did I put that? Hold on one second. So one of my trusty hummus tubs that you know that I like to save and recycle. I've got in here, oops, if I can open it, some old necklaces that I had that have either broken or are out of fashion, or that I've picked up from somewhere. I mean, I've got another little jewel that I've just got from somewhere. Very plasticky, like a Christmas tree decoration type thing. But again, I've got some little pearls, and I've got all bits and bobs and necklaces that have just kind of no longer my taste or what have you, that have changed. So I save all of those and put those together, and that's what I've done with some of these decorations. So like this one here, oops, if I can get it off, this lovely little crystal here is from a necklace, and so I've threaded it through on the ribbon when I've popped it through, and then with Clementine will always be a necklace that I used to wear and loved wearing. Lovely and sparkly, should catch the light nicely, that one should. I've also used some beads that I had. These are little goldy brass coloured beads which match this colour really nicely, and also some buttons. So that was a button out of my mother-in-law's vintage button box, so again that I was gifted. So again, I think what I'm trying to say is just don't try to, okay, some things you're going to have to rush out and get, like the squares. You might not already have those, or you might have a very handy person in your family who can make these for you anyway. I haven't, so I did buy those, and I'll have popped the price of those down. But yes, so that's what we did to embellish them. So that's the whistle stop tour as to what we've done. I hope you like them. I must say I absolutely love them. I'm already thinking of lots of other things that I can do and how I can make them into other uses as well. It's really set me off down a rabbit hole. I will still be sewing, so don't worry, that's not going to change. But it has set me off down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I'm thinking gift tags for Christmas. You could put people's names on them, or stamp them as well. You get rubber stamps and stamp them and what have you. Anyway, I digress. So, shall I show you how I actually made them step by step, and then hopefully you'll join in if you like it. If not, if that was enough information for you, then you don't need to watch the rest of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy making your little gifts. If you don't like them, I'm really sorry if they're not to your taste, but I'll have to say I absolutely love them. And there's plenty more other things that you can choose to put into your advent calendar that you can then use, and your recipient will absolutely love for years to come, I'm sure. So let me clear off my desk because it looks like an absolute bomb's hit it, and we'll set to, and we'll now get started and make the videos. Okay, so here's the 3 that we're going to be working on. I've just got one of each colour for you to have a look at. Now, as I say, these all started off the same way with this white, this natural looking wooden square, and they're 2 inches each on each side. And all I've done with those is I've just taken the 3 colours that I wanted to match the 3 different pictures on my vinyl ornaments. Just move these around a bit. Like playing shuffling, isn't it? So if I put those around that way, you can see which one's going to go onto each one. And I have then just given them each 2 coats on all sides with this chalk paint. A little bit rough on some bits, but that's just the wood, so I'm not worrying about that, because the varnish does seem to smooth this all out once it gets going. So that's those 3. So we've also got this rice paper now. So they had to dry. Okay. So then the next thing then is we're going to attach on our picture, which is made out of rice paper. Now it's quite a fibrous tissue, as you can see from the way that these edges are. And this is where I got this one from. It's from ITC Limited, I believe. Yeah, decoupaged paper.eu, itdcollection.com was this one. If you wanted to order the same, I'll put a link in the bottom, and that's the reference number for it if you wanted it, R1806. Wasn't expensive at all, just came in an envelope, so you could just choose that and use that. So what I actually found that I needed to do is take off this dark line in between, because that seems to colour quite darkly and show up on the edge of the ornaments. So the way that I've done these is that I did cut them out by scissors first. So just get my paper scissors, and then very carefully cutting around, leaving a little bit of a border if I can. Oops, this is not very sharp. I'm off screen. It's right, new camera angle, so I'm just trying to learn how to use this one. And just cut these out. As you might imagine, you can tear them too if you wanted to, but I found that actually you start to go into the other ones a little bit if you cut them all the way through, if you tear them all the way through, whereas cutting it seemed to just preserve the ones next to it first. So that's where I started off with these now. Next thing you need is you're going to need some paintbrushes. Now I've got these ones that I had from Annie Sloan when I was doing my cabinet, and I've also saved these ones that I had when I was doing my paint by numbers as well, that I had a couple of Christmases ago when we were locked down, and I thoroughly enjoyed. So I saved those because I thought they could come in handy, and they did do. So what I've got to do now is just go and get some water, because I found that if we just take the paintbrush and just paint along these edges with a little bit of water, we can then pull at the edges and we get this nice feathered edge, I think they call it. Now it's quite a strong paper in actual fact, this rice paper is. It's much stronger than decoupage paper normally. You can see how fibrous it is on the back there. But I just thought that it would work nicely, because sometimes decoupage paper can wrinkle and I didn't want that to happen to my ornaments. Let me just go and get some water and we'll be able to get started. So I've got my pot of water here, my paintbrush. All I'm going to do is just dip that in the water, bring it over to my edge, and I just go along the edge just like this. And hopefully you can see the water just taking shape there. Going on there, soaks it up quite quickly. I just went around all four sides with a little bit of water. Okay, and then once that's started, then all I did was just take a little bit like this and just pull at the little very edge off. So I'm just trying to just get the very edge here. You've just got to be careful because of the fibres. I'm not trying to lose too much of the picture because they're so kind of small enough already. So if you give them a little pull, and just start a little pile of shredded bits. And then the water just sort of eases the fibres away. I did find that if I tried to do this with it dry, then it didn't really work very well. It was quite hard work just pulling those apart. Again here, we've just got to make sure we take off the dark edge. So they just pulls away and leaves this feathered edge, and that's what I actually quite like having. Hopefully you like this new camera angle. I've got a new little tripod from Ale Hop. It was only £5, so I thought it was worth a try, and hopefully it might let you see when I'm sewing. But also now today when I'm doing this. If you don't like it, then let me know and I won't use it again. So that's one done. You can see they don't take very long. Go on to the next one. I'll do the same thing again, just paint along this edge. And by just doing the very edge, I think it does stop, well, apart from when the water soaks in, I think it just stops it from ripping too far, because you don't want it to go too far. Okay, so next one done. Done all four sides, and then again just gently just ease off that edge. Literally just grabbing the fibres just on the very edge. Oops. Sometimes it's a little bit dry or the fibres are a bit stiff, but just persevere and it should just give way. Oops, getting bits off my fingers. Put a bit too much off the corner there really, but okay. This is a handmade product, folks, so we just need to just bear that in mind, and hopefully whoever we give this to will love what we've done for them and not worry that it's not uniform on all sides. Seems a bit shiny than the other side. Let's try adding it onto the back instead. There we go. It's a pity that these didn't reach all the way to the edge actually. It would have been lovely if I could have just put them straight on, and if you're looking for your pictures you might find somewhere they go right to the very edge and then you don't have to necessarily do this. But I'll show you what to do if the fibres go off the edge of your decoupage as well, of your blank, to give you that nice edge on. Take off some of that as well. So there we've got our 3 pictures for our 3. Just put those bits in the bin before they get tangled up. Next thing I'm going to do, and now I did find that this flatter brush was useful for this. This brush by Any Slowness with the flat head was really useful, because I've got a little pot here again, you know, I like my little takeaway pots, and this has got PVA glue in it that I watered down. Now it has dried out a little bit again, but it's just PVA glue and a little bit of water, so we can just you know, wet our brush a little bit, and that'll just help get some a water and a nice consistency. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on, and then I'm just going to paint this across where I want my picture to go. Now I did try with the first ones, trying to be really careful, because I love the chalk paint effect of these pictures, but the varnish actually adds a glaze to the pieces. So then all I'm doing then now, just carefully, is trying to even that up, and then just smooth it down with my finger, is just pop the picture on. And then I'm just taking a little bit of extra PVA glue and smoothing it out from the centre to the edges. You can see how that's just nicely just all sticking down now. Spin it round a little bit more. Just literally try not to get too much glue on your brush. This isn't a time for putting loads and loads of glue on. You just want a bit on, just to be able to fix that down. And there's that one done. If you get any little fibres that you're not keen on, like on the edge here, just pull away at them with your fingers, and you can just smooth those out a little bit as well. Let's do the next one. A little bit of glue, not too much. You just want a really thin layer, because it'll be nice and tacky, so you don't need to have too much on. And luckily in this light you can see where the glue is, that helps. Go up there a little bit more. Spread that nice and thinly, and then we're going to take our picture, we're going to offer it up to our ornament, trying to get it straight and centrally as we can. And then once that's down, a little bit more glue, not just a bit too much, just a little bit, and then we're just going to smooth that down to the edges. So smooth it from the centre out, because those little bits are just so fine that if we're not careful, they're just going to ruckle up, and we don't want to get, it's a bit like a sewing, we don't want to get any rucks up in our decoupage, do we? Now you can see that these are going over the edge slightly. Don't worry about those bits, we'll just smooth them down. I'll show you what to do with those in a bit. Get a little bit extra there, just take that off. Okay, that's number 2. It doesn't take too long to do, but it's just one of those times when you just don't want to be interrupted. You want to be able to have some time just to be able to craft on by yourselves. Good time to have an audio book on if you want to, or some music, or if you just like to craft in silence, then you can craft in silence. Again, let's put this last one on. Smooth it down with our fingers. You don't have a lot of time to be able to move these around, folks, so try and take your time when you're placing it. Because as I say, they as soon as that fragile paper hits the shape and the glue, then it's quite an instant stick. So again, this one's quite dark on the bottom here. Let's just see if we can just take a little bit of that away. And sometimes you can't see until it actually hits the shape. But luckily the fibres will just come away again. That's why you've got to make sure you've got clean feet. I've got glue in my nail, but you can, with clear fingers, you should be able to just smooth those bits away. Okay, so that's the last one. So these now have to go and dry. So I've got some more that I've already got prepared. So let's let these dry, and they don't take that long actually. They're quite quick, and then we'll start and move on to the next ones and start and do the stamping on the back is the next stage. So This is the stamp pad that I use. You can see it's been well loved. And this one I got from a place, I think it's called Sostering Green. It was a shop in the UK, in one of the shopping centres. It wasn't a lot of money. It was only £6.28 look for this set. It is a couple of years old now. It was pre-COVID, but you can get these on Amazon as well. And this one is just some little rubber letters on the bottom. Oh, I've got a little bit of something on it. Little rubber letters that are on the bottom there, and just a wooden thing. Now with these you don't have to press very hard because you will get an indent around the outside, but hopefully you'll see from the ones that I've already done that I've actually got quite a nice result with them, so I'm quite happy. But there was a tip that I had with that as to how to get the ink to be more evenly distributed, and that was to use a little bit of foil. So I've used this little bit of foil. You can see in a couple of places I've been stamping with it already, because I've obviously been making 24 of these, so you know I was doing a bit of a production line with them. So what I do with mine is I've also got this ink pad that I've been using, this Colourbox Crafters one for fabric, wood and more, and colour is stone. And then this is how it is on the back there if you wanted that. I think I got this one from a arts and crafts shop, but you can get them from all sorts of different places and from Amazon as well. This one again is a couple of years old, and you'll see that the ink is still quite wet on it. I mean, the pad's sort of indented now. Got bits of paper on it from where I've been doing my other stamping, but it's still working really well, and I haven't had to fill this with ink or add any extra water to it at all, so really happy with that. So if you were wondering about those and whether they work or not, then they work really well. So what I tend to do is, and if we get a piece of paper, I've got a piece of paper here that we can use to have a practice with, is I did make a list of all of my words first. I've got a checklist over here. So I did do a checklist of all of my words. I had some in reserve as well for different words, and I'll put a link down in the bottom for you so you can have a look at those. But if we just take one of these ones, which was grow, and let's use that as a word. So just take these out. You can take them out one at a time. I tended to find we're doing lots of them. I just had them all on the side, but I try and make sure that I can always see the shape, see the letter, so I know it is. I just dab it. Oh, let's move these across. Just dab it a couple of times on the ink pad. Then I go onto my foil and I just take off a little bit of the excess with the foil before I then hold it on in my shape on, hold it down, give it a little bit of a wiggle but without moving it, and then, oh, it's not done the top bit, has it? So if it doesn't do a complete letter like that, then don't try and go back and restamp it, because the chances of you getting it absolutely spot on again are minimal. But I'll show you how I corrected mine, because that does happen sometimes. Let's carry on with the other letters, see if we have more success with it. Let's get the R out. Just dab it on the ink pad, onto the foil just to set that, and then choosing where to go. Just gives it a little bit of a wiggle. Sorry, a bit of a shadow there, isn't there? A little bit of a wiggle, top and bottom, and then you tend to get a reasonable letter out of it. So let's do the O next, just so that we know how this is going to go. So this is just a practice, just to show you. So I'm trying to get all of the bottom all lined up on the same place. You can't draw a line because you can't erase it, but this actual piece of paper here I put up against my shapes, as you'll see in a second. But this is just to show you to get the image of how we actually do the stamping. Just stamp it on the foil first and then try and line it up. But I do leave the stamps in place without putting too much pressure on for a few seconds, because and that's a nice W, because if I didn't take it off with the foil, then you can sometimes get it a bit more sort of blurred into each other. And also if you press on really hard or you wiggle it too much like that, oh, and hasn't given it, but sometimes you can get like a bit of an outline from the outside, and I didn't want to get any of that on mine. So again, that's why a slow and steady is going to win this race with these. So let's have a look and see this one. This one here has actually dried now, pretty much. A little bit on there that needs to come off. Okay, Okay, so as long as you've got a clean work surface, and you should be okay. So I put my shape down. I then used a piece of paper, which was a different colour to my shape, and then I put that across my shape, so it gave me a line to work along. And then we're going to then do this letter. Now, some of these words might seem a bit strange for some of you, but I wanted it to kind of be a little bit like a thinking. So it could be grow in terms of growing plants or vegetables, but also I thought it could be grow in terms of personal growth and development as she gets older as well. There's our G. Worked out much better on this one, didn't it? Let's do our R. Just make sure you've got your shape the right way round as well before you start to actually stamp it. And then when you're adding these on together, just try and guess your space, but use the straight edge that you've got to then hold it back together. Give it a little bit of a wiggle, but don't move it. There's our R. I'll see if I can get some more light. I don't want to let go now at the moment, but I'll set some more light up, so hopefully we won't lose some of these shadows for you. Here's the O. I just think that just holding it still just for a few seconds just helps that ink just go into the right places. There's the O. Get my W out if I can. Now, I have to say, I do think these are absolutely adorable. But, as I say, it's all personal taste. It might not be to your taste. It's not moved, it's just my letters just going on a slant. But then they are all handmade. And there's the W. Now, if you decided that that one was too messy a W for you, wait until the ink has dried, because this ink does get set by heat, but I didn't quite know how to apply the heat to this painted surface. I mean, I could hover my iron over it, a hot iron over it, without touching it, I suppose. Because what you could do then, and I did have to do it on one or two of mine, is wait until it's dried, and then I just took some of the chalk paint again, and then just went over it very carefully. You can't go backwards and forwards because it is a water-soluble ink until it's set, so it will and we may well choose to go over that again, and I'll show you what I did, but you just have to be really careful when you go over it. So let's leave that one there just to dry for a second. I go to my list as well, and I cross off the ones that I've already done, so I don't want to do any again. So the next one is bright, that I'm going to do. So let's have this this lovely one here. It's dried now, so I can turn it over. So you can see it. Get my straight edge straight, so that I'm happy with it. Okay, so we're going to have to start quite over this side because we've got quite a lot of letters to do. Oh, let me just do the light first, see if we can help that. Hold on a second. Okay, hopefully that's a bit better. Let's hope. Let's get this lined up again so that we're happy with roughly whereabouts it is. And we're going to have to start, because we've got so many letters, we're going to have to start that way. You could, if you're cleverer than me, you could start in the middle of your letters, then work one way and then work the other. But that's a little bit too advanced for me, so I'm just going to just wing it and go across. So just tapping on my ink and then taking off the excess, and then put it down, hold it for a few seconds, give it a little bit of a wiggle. Okay, that's a good one. I think just tapping it on the foil does just seem to help spread that ink around, just to make sure that it's nice and neat. The R, a little bit smudgy, but not too bad. We can still tell it's an R. I. And bright can mean intelligent, can't it? But it can also mean bright as in sunny as well. Somebody's bright in their disposition, then they're a sunny person, aren't they, to be around? And you may have family words that you like to use that you can put on here, or you might want to use Christmas words. You could have tinsel and reindeer. That's a bit long to put on one of these, but bauble or fun and all those types of things. So all sorts of words you could use for these if you wanted to, or if you don't like the words you could put numbers on the back. Which one is the right way around? Put numbers on the back, couldn't you, and have each one have a different number on, so that you've got, then each one goes in the corresponding pocket. You can theme them as well to your panel. I chose not to, but you can theme them to your panel as well. This is the T. Just hold on for a few seconds just to let that ink take, and there we go, so there's bright. Okay, so they aren't perfectly straight. That to me doesn't matter, it adds to the charm. But if you're a perfectionist, you could have 2 lines. I have seen people before put two or three of these together and then somehow fix them so that they're absolutely straight, and then they can then stamp them like that. I haven't done that, but obviously there's lots of options that you can do. So let me just cross off bright, and then the last one I've got is think. Let's turn this over. Line up our strip. If you've already got this and you're bored, folks, don't worry about just fast forwarding it. As I say, I'm just showing for those of you who are like perhaps doing other crafts or stitching or whatever, and are quite happy to sit and watch me do this, then keep some of the detail in for you. T, H, this is my first proper time with doing decoupage as well, so other people may well have be screaming at the screen at me at different ways of doing this, or have different ways of doing the letters. You may have transfers that you can use. I've seen transfers used on other channels and with other projects as well, so you know there's lots of different ways that you can do these. I'm not saying this is the only way, I'm not even saying it's the correct way, I'm just saying this is the way that it worked for me. There we go, that's our last one. So I can put those away for now. Now, always cover up your ink pad as soon as you finish using it, because that way it'll keep it nice and dry for you. So these are our ones that we've got here. Perhaps if I show you with the grow one how we redo that letter if you weren't happy with it, and I'll show you on this one how I then help set this up for, if it's not quite right, I've got to find my pen. Hold on 1 second. So let's just do this G on here first. I don't want to touch up any of these, but I've got a little pen here from Paper Chase. It's just one of the little narrow nibbed ones. And all I did was I just went back in and then went over that letter. They're a bit thicker on that side, aren't they? And you can just touch it up that way. Obviously that's quite dark, but also you can dip the nib of the pen into your ink pad as well, and then use that to go over it as well if you wanted to. That's the other way that you can touch those up if they don't quite hit to the edges. For this one, we're going to go over that letter again. It's still a little bit wet, so if I just get some tissue paper here and just dab it off, making sure not to smudge it any more than it already has been. Okay, and then I'm going to get my paint. Open it up. Little paintbrush. I'm just going to take just a double of paint, not too much, but you need to have enough to try and get over this in one go. Move that paint out there, let's change, sending the filter off. And then literally, I'm just going to go really carefully over the top. You can see how it's smudging underneath as soon as you start to touch it. So I would then leave this to dry now, and then I'm going to then put another coat over the top. Now I am going to put a letter in there as well, so I don't need to worry too much that that's smudging slightly underneath, because well, I do need to worry about it smudging, but at this moment, because once I put the second coat over that, that will just smooth that out for now. So I'm just going to leave that there, just try and take off that edge a little bit. And chalk paint does dry incredibly quickly as well. So as you can see, that's starting to improve already. So let's just let that just dry for a second or two. And then we can just go over it again, just gently with not too much paint, but that will have sealed it enough just to go over again now. And just take that letter out. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and then we're going to then restamp that letter, and then that will then be good enough to then be able to use again. So again, with a lot of these things, don't worry too much. So that's me just rinsing my brush out in the water. Remember to rinse your brushes out as you use them, because as I say, these are the ones that I had a couple of years ago from a Sewn by Numbers kit that I did, and they've proved to be really useful. So yeah, we'll let that dry for a second or two. It's not quite dry enough yet, but as I say, the chalk paint does dry really quickly, so you'll be able to use that. So let's just cover up my paint again, and I've used so little of these. These were little tester pot sizes, 120ml, and literally you can hardly tell that I've used them, and I've done all 24 of mine so far. So I think that's probably about dry enough actually, folks, straight away. And really it doesn't take long at all. And that's probably one of the things I've had to get used to, is actually getting used to the ink to dry in before we've been able to do this. Let's just pop this back under here. So there's obviously a bit of a slant with that, so let's try and even that up a bit if we can. Don't press on too hard, just a little bit. Okay, it's better than it was. Still a little bit smudged, but it's just because of the way that letter's formed, I think. So let's just pop those away. Again, you can wipe the bottom of your ink, your little ink things here. Just take the excess off, just so that when you're putting them away, you can always wash them, so that you can use them for years and years. But yeah, so just take care. If we take care of things, then they do last us for years, don't they? Oh, that ends in the wrong place. That's right, I'm just trying to get my letters. Anybody else like that? I have to have the letters in the right order, and that one's turned around as well. That was bugging some people who've been watching. Okay, so let's put that label back on there again, and that's sorted. So these are now drying. So the next thing we're going to do now is going to put the polka dots on. So I can put away those ink pads and get out my little pots of ink. Now these ones I had, again, this was the Paint by Numbers that I did. I don't know if you can see that picture there. So that was the Paint by Numbers picture that I did. And so you get all of these little pots with the numbers on them. And so some of these are dried up, but actually they're water-based acrylic. So what I've actually done with them is I've added a little bit of water. Oh, if I can get it open. Here, okay. I used the smallest paintbrush that I had with my kit, which was this one here. I did wet it slightly, just to start it off with my water. And then I added some water as well to here, because I needed this to be, and it actually did loosen up the water enough, the paint enough for me to be able to use it. So again, because you're using such a small amount, I didn't have to actually go out and buy any, but you might have some supplies of acrylic paint, or the kids might have some, or the grandkids might have some, and you can just borrow a little bit. Again, Tupperware tubs come in handy, don't they? Little takeaway tubs with these. And so what I'm going to do now is just use my little brush here. This W is still drying, but that's fine because we can leave that to dry for a bit. And then I just use the edge of the paintbrush and just started putting on some of my polka dots. I just went fairly random. That was not so good, just need a bit more paint. So have some fun with this. Anybody who was growing up like me, who watched Blue Peter or Why Don't You, all those little craft, Take Heart, for those craft programs, this is absolutely perfect for just bringing out that side of you. Just try and make them random if you can. You can just add in a bit more paint if you need it. There's no real science to this, it's just make it up as you go along. But hopefully maybe one just down there. But just have a look at it and just see if it looks right or not to you. I did look at them without the polka dots, but actually I prefer them with. So again, you know, there isn't a right or a wrong answer with this. It's purely down to what you like and what you want to see. These are your ornaments, so you can just absolutely make them as you want them to be. The process is just giving you a clue as to what I did and how I did what materials I used and where I found everything from. That was quite nice, isn't it? So that's that on those sides. And again, these don't take long to dry either, these little acrylics. So I'm going to leave that for a minute or two more. Cover your paint up as soon as you've finished so that you don't then have to worry. I could have used any of the other colours as well, but those ones work for me. And just rinse your brush out as well, because that way then you're not going to get that too dry. Not be able to use it, because that would be a shame, wouldn't it, if you've then had these things and had to go over and use them. So while that's just drying, let's just then talk about, I've got some others that I've already done, so let me just move these out of the way for a moment. In true Blue Peter fashion. Here's my stack of my other ones. And what I want to do with these is I want to put the gilding on the edge of these, so the little gold edges. So what I've got is I've got this Annie Sloan gilding wax. You can buy this from all over the place. It is quite expensive, but you need such a small amount. I mean, as I say, I've used this for highlighting a china cabinet and for doing the ornaments you've already seen, and you can see you really don't use very much at all. So I've just popped this onto the foil because the foil doesn't soak it up. If I put it onto a paper, you might find some of the product actually soaks into your into the paper, and so I didn't want that to happen. So let's just move that out of the way for a second. So let's take this one here. So what we're going to do with these now is I'm going to, because make sure your fingers are clean, and these have been drying for a while. And then I just took my finger, dropped it, dipped it into the foil and dabbed it onto the, so dipped it into the wax, and the heat of your fingers actually does make the wax melt slightly. And then I just smoothed it onto the edges here, just like this. It's a little bit, I want it to be a little bit like a gold leaf, so I've not worried about it not going into all of the edges. If it picks up some of the texture of the paint, then I've been happy with that. As I say, you just need such a small amount. Less is more on this as well. You can always add more, but once you've got it on, it's a bit more difficult to get it off. Oops, sorry, going off camera onto a bit. You can just see it's on your finger, so just use what you've got on your finger. I might find this camera angle's too close for you folks. I hope I'm not making anybody dizzy with this. So that'd be such a shame, wouldn't it? So, and then I'll back up to the top again. Okay, so now you can see that it's just come round onto the edges. So now all I do is with finger, I haven't put any extra on, is now I'm just going to smear that just across the edge, and hopefully you can see, the camera might just pick up, it's just going over the edge a little bit, and that's the look that I wanted. Obviously if you want it to be more precise, then you do it exactly how you want it to be. This is just how I wanted mine to be. Quite a nice process really. And then again, just being careful to keep your fingers out the way that have got the gold on. Then I just did the other side as well. Literally just using what's already on my finger. Haven't added any extra on yet. I'll add a little bit more now because we've about used it all up. So there we go. Again, you can go and add more onto the edges if you wanted to. You just have to do whatever you're happiest with. There's our little duck all sorted. These gold edges. Okay, and then you just leave these to dry. I did find that if I used, got a piece of cardboard here that's got some bits cut out of, so I just rested them on top of there, and it doesn't tend to smudge too much unless you really catch it. So I just pop them onto a piece of cardboard just like that, just to dry. This again, this wax does set. So let's do a different one. So again, making sure your fingers are clean before you start. Again, just take a bit of the wax, wipe it on the foil first, and then we're just going all the way around these edges. If you use like a wiping motion as well, you can wipe down but also wipe across. That seems to get it into all the little indentations in the edges. Secret is try not to get too much on, in actual fact, because you can always wipe a bit off if you need to with a cloth, but like there it's got a bit clumpy, so just wipe it on the foil and it'll just give you enough just to, a little goes a long way on this gilding wax. Again, just smear it over the edges just slightly. That's my look that I want to go for. And this is why you need to make sure that all of your letters are dry, because if you've got sweaty fingers you could smudge your letters if you're not careful that you've stamped on. And all of your polka dots need to be dry as well. There we go. That's the next one done. So it don't take very long to do, but as I say, you just got to just be careful with the gilding wax that it doesn't go everywhere. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my other ones now that this side is dry. I'm going to then go over these polka dots again. So I'll put a little dot where there is a polka dot already on the front, and then extend it outwards like I have done on this one. You can see, I'll get my dry one. Hold on one second, use fingers. So like on this one, you can see I've extended the polka dots out a little bit just to add some detail. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that on the front. So the existing dots had a dot, add a dot, and then just outside, and then I'm going to edge these all up, the extra ones that I've just done with the gold as well, and then we'll talk about what to do next. So as you can see, I've just been busy putting the gold on all of mine. So I've just got these 3 left that we did earlier, and I've put the polka dots now on the pictures side as well. Oops, get that straight for you. Okay. And remember I said about don't worry too much if you get some edges, some of the fluffiness off the edges here. Because what you do then is you just take a nail file or an emery board. An emery board is perfect because it's really fine. And then you just go along the edge of the emery board with your nail file, and those bits should all just drop off. Look, just pull away just nicely and drop off. Leave you with a nice smooth check the other two, see if we've got any on there. No, you don't want to go so far that you get down to wood. Got a couple on this one, look. But just enough just to take off that edge and just take those fibres away. As I say, it just smooths it off then for you, so you can then get on to painting those. So we've got these 3 left to do now, just with the edge. Just to show you that, I mean, that's how much of the wax I've got left. I've still got this bit on here that I've not used yet. There's quite a lot still left in that tube, so it does go a very long way. Just keep making sure that you've got clean fingers as well. You might be happy with gold highlights on your ornaments, but that's not the look I'm going for really. So just keep making sure that you wipe your hands in between each one so that you don't transfer the gold where you don't want it. And I find that the pad of the finger actually does get into quite a lot of those little crevices quite nicely, which is why I've not tried to use a brush for this, because I think it would put it on too thick, and you really want it just to smear along the edges. So again, just smooth it with my finger now, and normally there's enough left on your finger just to be able to just wipe along the edge. Just uses that up, makes it really cost effective to use. Just neatens up those edges. Well, neatens them up, but adds that little bit of glimmer just onto the edge. Just turn it over carefully. Let's do the same the other side. As much or as little as you want. If you start to run out, you can just add a little bit more to your finger. There we go, that's another one done. I'll just finish off now doing these last 2. And then we'll be ready for the next stage. It's going to be debatable whether we do the next stage as the varnishing or adding the embellishment. And the other thing is I would let this gilding wax just dry overnight if you can as well, because I think that it does kind of cure against the chalk paint. If you've used chalk paint, like I have, then it does seem to cure against that and makes it a little less likely to get mixed up with your varnish when you come to varnish these, because we need to varnish them and protect them. I love the matte finish, I have to say, but I know that that's not going to be very robust, especially if they're going to be handled by little ones, and I want them to stand the test of time as well. So I did take the decision to varnish mine. If you were doing this for yourself and you're just making these for ornaments, perhaps on your tree, or make a garland with them, or that kind of thing, anything you want to do, then you could choose to leave them matte like this. But as I say, we're going to go on ahead and varnish these. Make sure we've got both sides done. Yeah, just going over the edges. And I love the look of this gold on the edge of them. I think it really adds something. So one more. Be careful, my finger, got some gold on that finger. I need to just take that off before it gets transferred. So I'd be really interested to know whether you're liking these or not. I know that they're not going to be to everybody's taste. They might be a bit too rough and ready for some. They might be too complicated for others and not fast enough. But as I say, hopefully you've enjoyed watching the process, and it's triggered you into thinking of ways, or inspired you into thinking of ways you could do something similar for another project. It's a good job we don't all like the same things sometimes, isn't it? Bit of a departure from my normal sewing videos. But something a little different every now and again is quite therapeutic, isn't it? Apologies if you're bored watching me doing this. I've now got gold all over my fingers. I need to leave the camera running for a second or two. I'll just easier just to finish than it is to keep stopping and starting. done. That's that side done. So I'm happy with that one as well. Leave that one to dry, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about embellishing them and decorating them. Whilst all of mine are drying, I just thought I'd talk to you about some of these. These are some of the blanks that I've got spare, so I'll just put those out the way. So I've ordered these in a pack of 30, so obviously I've got 6 there. Put that out the way as well. So I just want to talk to you about some of the embellishments that I've got, because as I say, these are the ribbons that I've picked out of my button box. I've got some little twine here, gardener's twine as well, that I've used for some of them that turned out really nicely. These are, as I say, some of these are ribbons that you have when you're buying a garment, and they've got the tags on them, and I save all of those as well rather than put them into the bin. Try and be thrifty. This one here was some ribbon off a fabric bundle that I got as a gift, so I saved the ribbon from that, and that I think will fit in very nicely with some of the colours that I've got. I didn't have very much in green, so that's probably a little bit too short, that piece there is. But again, you know, you can just pick and choose. I then went through the button box and the bead box. Found these beads that work really well. They're nice ones. Found a pink button that will look really nice, I think, either on a pink one. I've just hold that up against there, look. Pink one on there, onto the string, perhaps slightly at the top, because it's slightly big, isn't it? As I say, I've got some little wooden buttons here as well that we can thread through, and we can use those. So there's lots of things that you can do, and again, if you wanted to, you can add extra bows if you want to. You know, you can put contrasting bows at the top of these if you wanted to when you're embellishing these. It just depends, absolutely. Oops, strings got wet in the water. It just depends on what you want to do, and if you've not got any button boxes like this, you can go out and buy little beads like these ones to decorate them. If your advent calendar or your ornaments are going to be for a very small child, you do need to be careful, because obviously these are choke risks for some children, and if the advent calendar and ornaments are going to be in somewhere where the child can get hold of it, you do need to take responsibility really and be careful of that, and perhaps omit the buttons if you need to. Clementine at the moment will be is just nearly 18 months old, I think, by the time we get to this one to her, hopefully, or a little bit older, and so this will be kept out of her way until she is older, because I shall speak to my daughter and make sure that she knows that it needs to be monitored. Here we've got some buttons off some dresses, look, and I just thought that little pearly button would be really nice. Can't quite see the sheen of it. There you go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Old Marks and Spencer's garment somewhere. Cream mix, don't know what that was. But yeah, so that's where I've picked up these things, and we've got a little love heart here as well, look. So again, you can mix and match these beads and these buttons and these ribbons, and we'll pop them together. But have a look and see what you've got around. I mean, as I say, I've got a bag of them, and I save them from chocolates and from all sorts of things, and that then has built up over the years into quite a collection. So as I say, we can use these to decorate our ornaments. So I've just changed the angle just in case this is starting to make anybody dizzy or not. I'm not quite sure whether it will do. So let me know if it has done. So I just thought I would just do a couple of the ornaments just to show you how we do these. So I do add my ribbon and laces onto my ornaments. Oops, I just need to get my awl, because that one's not needs an extra hole going through it, look. Because when you're actually varnishing them, it does give you something to hold on to. So what I'm going to do now is thread this here through, and this is where the awl can help. So I've just chosen a bit of pink ribbon for this one. That will go through. Because it's not very long, I'm not going to do it as a different knot going through there. How about this one here? So we've got a little glass bead that we're going to put onto here and give it through. And again, just use whatever you've got lying around, if you've got anything lying around. If not, ask friends and family for them, because they're good sources of finding things, aren't they, and helping us build our stashes. Just trying to get that through. There it goes. Okay, so just use my awl just to poke that through. So we've got a nice little glass bead on the top of that one. So I'm now going to just tie a knot to hold that down. Again, this is my attempt to try and not make these too risky. So by securing that bead on down here, hopefully it will make it a little bit more safe and secure. The problem is you have to counter that between the loss of the that's going to be too tight, isn't it? So if you've got a roll of ribbon, then obviously you can just cut it off as you want to. But I was just trying to be thrifty with these if I can. And I just like the thought of reusing those things that we've got that we don't need anymore. Just make sure they're the same length. Because the other thing that I do as well on these is I put fray check on them as well. On the ends of these, just to hopefully stop them from fraying. I haven't on this one as yet. Let's try that knot at the top instead. Right, as long as it gives us enough just to hang it onto a branch or onto whatever you're going to be, your child or recipient's going to hang these onto. That should be enough, shouldn't it, to hang on? As long as that's really tight, which it is, and that's going to hang on there. So that's that one done. Let's have a look what else we've got. Let's untangle some of this string. We can use this for some of them. I think this one would look really nice with one of these wooden buttons on, so I think we're going to use one of those for this one. So I'm going to take quite a length of string first, snip it off, and I'm going to thread it through the button first, which could be interesting. I don't want to glue these on with glue afterwards, the buttons, because I want them to be secured on. Make the holes as big as we can do, being as it's wood. Oops, where's my bit of string on? There it is. Maybe that's not going to work with that, it's going to be too fine, isn't it? Let's use one of these instead. I know that's going to work. So I'm going to double over my string, go from the back to the front. Careful not to poke your fingers on the other side. Once it's through a bit, you can usually just pull it through, lever it through. When you've got all of the bits, all of the 3 different strands to this string. Let's pop that open through like that. To hold on nicely. We've got to put a bead here. Again, let's put a nice big knot in here. I'll hopefully hold that on. There we go. And then a knot at the top. So this part isn't very sophisticated in some ways. You're just really just trying to use what you've got in order to make it pretty, attractive. Take the top off there, so that's 2 done. But then when we're varnishing these, I actually hold them by here so that when I'm putting the paint on and around the edges, I can spin it round, but then it can hang and I'll show you what I use for hanging mine on, but you might have something slightly better than what I've got. But again, we have to sometimes compromise and improvise with what we've got, don't we? So here we've got a bit of another bit of ribbon here. Put this onto a pink one again. Poke it through the hole. Oops, it's come out. Put it through. What can we use on this one? Oh, a pink button could be nice, couldn't it? Let's put the pink button on. This one was already tied at the top, so I'm just going to loosen this off so we can pop this on through the button. Yes, I could snip it off. I know that would be easier, but I just want to preserve as much of this ribbon as I can for hanging. There we go. So I want to try and make a cross in the centre of this ribbon, so we're going to go from the back forward first. And get it to go through. And then we'll go through on the other one. The other thing you can do with these as well is, where's my needle case? If you've got a needle with a decent hole on the end of it, you can thread your ribbon onto your needle. And then I'm going to do a cross in the centre of this one. So I'm going to go through like that. Take the other side. Thread that one. Pull that ribbon, that button down as far down as I can get it without stabbing myself with my needle. And then I'm just going to tie a knot at the back of this button just so it keeps it down. Oh look, I've threaded the ribbon through one through the other. Out. That'll hold that steady, and then we can then re-knot this at the top, keeping the strands nice and neat. Slightly longer one, isn't it? So that's our next one, all done. What else can we do? Let's do this duck, shall we? Let's have some gold ribbon for this duck. A bit of gold here we can use. It might be long enough if we just go through once. And I've got some of these little beads. That's quite a thin ribbon, so we'll see whether we can get this through on this one. If not, we'll move on to one of the other ones, but it'd be nice if we can. See if that needle will go through on that one. So, which one was it? The needle will go through, it might. Yeah. See if we can thread it through with the needle. Giving it a bit of a wiggle. Nope, that's not going to work, is it? It was a good plan, folks, but it's not worked. vulva that has. I've just took that through a little bit, and if you start to join this one in with it, then hopefully when you pull on one, it'll pull the other one through as well. Not yet. Yes, it's pulling them both through. Well, this one's going to be nice and tight on, isn't it? Not going to have to worry about this one falling off. Make sure they're as equal as we can before we pull it down to its final place. And again, this one's quite short, so I'm just going to do a knot at the top on this one. But you get the idea. It's just trying to put things together to make them look nice and make them look pretty. Another one, little one done. And as I say, I like the variety of the different finishes with them. If you get anything where it's trying to fray like this, the edges of this one, then what I would suggest you do with that is to get your fray check, your prim fray check, or any other brand that you've got. It's got a little stopper on it. Look, it's got a bit skunked up. So if we pop a bit of that onto the end of the only a little bit onto the foil, then you can just dip the ends of your ribbon into that, and that should, if you just leave that to dry, that should seal off those ends, so that then makes it so that they don't fray for you. So the only other one that I want to show is that this button here. So my youngest daughter Lucinda is 29 this year in a few days' time. And actually this button here was from a cardigan that I made for her when she was a baby. So again, it really appeals to me that I'm going to be popping that into the advent calendar that we're making for Lucy. For Lucy. It's not for Lucy, it's for Clementine, isn't it? That little bit of history there is going forward with Clementine onto her ornaments. Just to say, like on the back of this one, where we've just popped this button from her Auntie Lucy's cardigan when she was a baby, that could slip off or move up. So all I'm going to do with this one is going to bury my tails. I've got a thread, get my words right, Claire. I've got a needle and thread, and I'm just going to bury my knot just around the back of here. And I'm just going to do a couple of stitches, well, more than a couple, but just a few stitches that just spans the back of this button. And what that will do is, rather than lose length on the ribbon, it just means that if my thread doesn't knot up, oh dear, it was doing it fine before, and then of course I'm on camera and then nothing ever wants to go right. But then if this happens to you too, you know how to fix it. So I'm just taking a few stitches just at the back of the ribbon, and it's just crossing the shank of the button, and that will just hold it on and just keep it nice and secure so that it doesn't come off. I haven't done it on everything, because some things you can put a knot in, some things you think it's not going to come off. But just on here, if you use a coordinating thread, you don't have to really see it. And just going just across there as neatly as possible several times will just give you a nice little bit of securing thread just to attach that on. Just do a couple of stitches in place down the bottom here just to hold it, like that, and then you can just cut the thread off close to the work, and I'll just hold that up for you so you can just see So there you go. There is a little bit of stitching involved, but as I say, it's just to hold that button on there. And then I'll just finish this one off with a knot at the top. Keep thinking of things. I keep thinking, right, you can let people go now, Claire. You don't need to show them anything else. And then I keep thinking of little tips more for you. Both our ends through. And then we can then pull this knot up towards the top as tight as we can so that it can't come undone. There we go, that's better. There should be enough there just to be able to hang that onto a branch. And there it is. There's another one done. So I'll just keep working my way through them. So I've finished threading all of mine and all of the beads and decorating them, and now what I'm going to have to do is varnish them, but because I want to varnish both sides at the same time, we need to kind of suspend them. So for me, and I've used the doweling that we're going to use for the top of our fabric calendar panel when we finish, because what I want to do is I want to move these along, paint one, and then there's enough room along here to be able to have all the rest there, so I can separate one off, paint it, and then move it along. So what you're going to need to do is, if you've got your dowel already for this, or you've got a stick, or you've got a knitting needle, or you've got anything else that you can use, then you just want to be able to have something that you can put these onto so that we can then varnish them. So I know it seems a bit of a daft idea, but it's just a way just to try and suspend them. And then what I'm going to do is tie one end to something. I've got a lamp here that I can use. I'm going to tie it to the support for the lamp, and then I can move one along, paint it, and then hang it. And then move the next one along, and then vice versa. If you've not got that, the other thing that I have used very successfully, if I just tip you up this way a little bit, you'll see I've got my cover stitch machine there. And let me just show you. On the edges here, there's little hooks. And again, on my overlocker, there's little hooks here that I can suspend these through. So I can varnish them and then do a few at a time, and then just suspend them through this way. So again, just think laterally. I know that seems like a bit of a really daft idea, but if you just think laterally, there's sometimes ways in which we can do things which don't always follow through. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to get my varnish. Where have I popped that? Okay, so I've got my varnish, and I went along to my local DIY store. This one obviously is a Spanish brand, but it's a matte finish is what I wanted to get as much as I could do. It has brought out a slight gloss finish on it, but it's not as high gloss as it would have been. And also I wanted this, it's in the English here, it says it's a water-based varnish, acrylic varnish, which is great, brilliant, or matte finishes, performance protect and decorate outdoor and indoor surfaces, easy to apply, quick dry and washable and odourless. And it also says as well that it's touch dry in 30 minutes, and it is second coatable after 6 hours. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 coats of this. So if I open this up carefully, and I've got my little bottled water sprayer that I've used for the acrylic paint earlier. That was the word I wanted. And all I'm going to do is I've got a brush. I'm just going to wet my brush just gently first, just so that it just sort of picks up the varnish nicely. And I'm going to do the side first with the picture on it. So I'm just going to holding it by the ribbon, which is why I suggested that we do that bit first, is we're just going to put 1 coat of this varnish all the way. You can touch the back at the moment, but you won't be able to do that in a minute. All the way across. We're trying not to get too much varnish on it because we don't want to get ridges in what we're doing. We want it just to be able to just go over and protect the ornament that we've created. And I am going along all the edges as well, over the top of the wax. This is why I say sometimes it's better if the wax has had a bit longer to dry than I'm allowing, but I want to get this video up, so I am pushing ahead with mine. I'm fairly confident it's going to be fine. And then very gently you can just twist it round. Now I'm going to varnish, you're going to notice I'm going to varnish everywhere except over the letters first off, because we want to be really careful with those letters, because if we're not careful they will smudge. So let's do everywhere we've got to go first before we get to those precious letters. I'm going to get really close up to it so we can do a minimal amount of disturbance to those letters that we can. Okay, and then when we're ready we're just going to just dip our brush just gently, just get a little bit on, and then I'm just going to just take one swipe across the letters like that. Take off any excess if there is excess, but just don't touch those letters again, because they will run if we're not careful. So there we've got our first one all varnished, so I'll hang that one up. And then we just work our way through these, holding on to only the ribbons now that they're set up. Take another one off here for the moment. Okay, we'll do the same again. Just dip our brush. The front isn't too bad because that's quite nice and dry. Not putting too much on because we don't want too many ridges through all of this. Take off any excess if you've got too much. Remember to do your edges. Just try and keep your decorations out of the way. We don't want to varnish those if we can help it. It's quite quick drying, this is. It's really good. And then again we're going to move on to the other side now. And as before we're going to do everywhere except our letters. And in actual fact, this is the one that we redid the W, and as you can see, you can't tell at all that we redid that letter. So that little fix worked really well, where we painted it back over again with the base colour. This just helps smooth out any imperfections as well. So again, let's go right up to those letters, but not through them until we're ready. Oops, nearly. Until we're ready, and then dip our brush so it's quite nice, not much drag on it, and then we're just going to go once across those letters. Take off any excess if we can. If we start to go too much across those, they're going to smudge. Okay, so there we go. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to carry on working our way through all of our ornaments and give them the first coat. I'm then going to leave it to dry overnight. Just make sure you go back over again and just make sure you've not got anything over the edges here that are going to make a ridge. And then I'm going to leave them overnight, and then I'm going to give them a second coat tomorrow. Okay, so I just want to give you a bit of a giggle. Here's my makeshift drying rail. So I've got it tied with a piece of ribbon to one side of my lights here. I've got another ribbon on the other side here on another support. Just here, and these can now just move along. I can take each one at a time, hold it up, just paint it, and then just separate them out so they're not touching, and then they can dry overnight. So that's what I'm going to do now, folks, is carry on with those, get them all dry. I've also got my other ones over here, like I said. I've put those on the end of my cover stitch machine. As you can see, they're just hanging there, just drying. So again, just use what you can just to make this work for you, because you've got 24 of them to do, so just see how you get on. So that's it for now, folks, really, because all I'm doing now is just painting these now to get them to be varnished. I'm going to leave them overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to varnish them again, but the process is the same as what you've already seen, so you don't really need to see it again. And in the end, you end up with your lovely little painted and varnished ornament for your advent calendar. So I hope that you've enjoyed this little detour really from my usual sewing videos. It's something quite different for me, but I have really enjoyed the process, I have to say. I've got quite a lot of materials left over for me to have a go at doing some more, and as I say, I fancy doing some gift tags. So if anybody follows me on Instagram, then and if you don't, then you can do. My hashtag is @SewSunnyTimes, so SEWSUNNYTIMES, and I'll put a link, I'll put my name down in the description as well, so that you can have a look there and follow, because if I do any more of these, make any more, and I really do intend to, then I'm going to make some as gift tags, I think, which would be really nice little thank yous. And I've also got an idea for making them into a card as well, so I'll share that as well at some stage. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's not disappointed anybody, that it's not something sewing related, or that it's not something that they can't actually recreate themselves, and hopefully you've enjoyed seeing this video. If you have and you like what I do, including the sewing, then please feel free to click the subscribe button. If you want to be notified if I upload any more videos, then if you click the notification bell as well, then you'll get a notification to say that a new video has been uploaded. And finally, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. I love to interact with all of my subscribers, as you'll see from the comments. So pop down your thoughts. Hopefully you like them. If I've done anything wrong, then let me know. But obviously the final result is the main thing, and the process doesn't matter so much as long as we get to the final result. And if you've had success at having a go at this, or you fancy having a go, then please just let me know. So that's it for me now. I can hear my husband cooking dinner for me. I'm very lucky. So I'm going to go off now and go and have some dinner, get this video uploaded for you, and hopefully this will be live on Sunday. So have a great day, everybody. Happy stitching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for persevering through to the end. I hope it's been worth your while, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon when normal service and sewing will be resumed. So take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye.